First things first, we have Israel just sitting back and hanging out. So, at a conference that promotes the return of illegal Israeli settlements to Gaza, shocking, Israel's far right finance minister Smotrich had his thoughts on the U.S. war with Iran. And he basically stated Israel has no interest in joining the campaign. The current situation is the best for us. And ain't that the truth? And he's not lying. So, basically, what they get right now in Israel is the ability to sit back, not have their soldiers die, not waste all of their interceptors while the U.S. uses all of ours in Jordan to protect our bases, but also to protect the airspace that they would fly through to hit Israel eventually. And he states also in that conference or on the clips when he's speaking about the best way to take down Iran right now is economically, as opposed to just pure regime change through assassination. So he says, look, we're going to cripple them financially, or better yet, the U.S. blockade will cripple them financially. So Israel right now, in a logical spot, even though it's not fun to hear as an American, is like, why would we get involved here? America is doing all of our dirty work. America is assuming all the risk, and America doesn't even get the reward of having a regional rival taken down. That matters much, much more to Israel than it does to us. The question is this a bluff? Because we have heard reports from Israeli media that they do want to get involved, or that the Americans might unleash them on Iran if things get tough. So that's a potential. But likely, I think this makes a lot of sense from Smotrich, is that this is the perfect situation. They get everything they want and don't have to lift a finger, besides allowing some jets or some aircraft refueling tankers at their airport, which they also complained about. And does this favor Iran? Do they want to actually strike Israel and bring them into the war, or would they prefer to just to fight America one-on-one? That way, Hezbollah can fight Israel, keep them busy. The Houthis can fight Saudi Arabia and keep them busy. And then the IRI, the Shiite militias in Iraq that are favorable to Iran, they can just attack Kuwait. So why would Iran want to take on Israel and the U.S. at the same exact time? I think it's better for them as well to let Israel stay out of it. But it was unique to hear it stated so plainly by Smotrich. But of course, our greatest ally in Israel doesn't stay completely out of it, because they dropped a new report today where they told U.S. officials that Iran is making some moves on the nuclear front once again. So first things first, we need to take a look at this facility, Natanz nuclear facility, temporarily closed. Yep, there were some strikes there. But what is this all about? So, a little history lesson. In 2010, the U.S. and Israel unleashed Stuxnet, the cyber weapon, on the facility and basically cook all their computers and centrifuges and totally mess up their operation. And then July 2nd, 2020, a quote-unquote powerful explosion occurs here. And there was questions at first, was it a cyber weapon? But no, it seems to be some type of kinetic strike. So Iran learned, hey, we cannot keep our facilities out in the open above ground. So then they start to look around and they're like, there's a lot of mountains here. And these are the Zagros that you hear about all the time. Really hard to get over for ground troops as well. But a fun game you can always play when you find military facilities in Iran is try to look at the little roads around them on Google Maps. And you'll see eventually, and often, they end up taking you places up into the mountains where they build these underground bases. So you can see the roads just kind of stop there. But this is what is referred to as Pickaxe Mountain. If you zoom in, these tunnels right here where it gets dark, these are built straight into the mountain. So this is where they put nuclear facilities, but also their missile bases. They hide a lot of stuff in these mountains. So let's see what's going on here. So Wall Street Journal exclusive today said, Israeli intelligence believes Iran moved thousands of uranium enrichment centrifuges into tunnels deep inside the mountain last fall, a development that could heighten concerns that Tehran could reconstitute its nuclear program. So you see right here that there is some work being done with trucks coming in and out of these mountain facilities. Now, the running joke is that Israel says that Iran's going to do this every 2 weeks for 10 years. But technically, they're not wrong. So how enrichment works is basically at 20%, you're all good. There's legitimate uses. Anytime you go above that 20%, it's really only to make weapons. And that's true as well. So you cannot put limits on countries going to 20%. But once they go above 20%, it's red flags because there's no other reason you need it besides a weapon. So it's also this curve where at the beginning, it's incredibly hard to enrich any uranium, but it gets far easier as you go about. The first 10%, 20% is incredibly hard. But once you get the facilities, the centrifuges, and all of that to enrich it, and then get to that magic number of 60%, then you can turn it into 90% weapons grade uranium very quickly. And this here says 7 days. I hear 7 to 10 days. So Iran has 60% highly enriched uranium, and they have the motivation now to fast track building that bomb because they've learned their lesson not to negotiate, and that countries with the bomb America doesn't mess with. So even though it's annoying when Israel says it, they're technically correct. If they do want to go in those tunnels that have been bombed previously, they dig them out. They're able to find those abilities to use the centrifuges to enrich quickly. Because remember, the previous strikes, went into the ventilation shaft and all of that, but it didn't completely destroy these places. So it's still in there. They just have to get to it. Is Iran in that race to get to 90%? Build the bomb? Now, can they actually get a ballistic that can reach to America on their own? No. But could Russia give it to them? Could China? Sure, but that's a highly, highly sensitive thing if we find out Russia and China gave them the ballistic missile that could actually reach the U.S. with a nuke. That would be dangerous and that would cause problems. But they can definitely hit Israel. So once again, America is doing a lot of work here to protect Israel while they're just sitting back, hanging out. And Trump was asked today, he was meeting with the president of Lebanon, and they asked him about the report from the Israelis. And Trump stated when asked, "We'll be hitting that area very probably pretty soon. Very probably pretty soon. And there's not a thing they can do about it." Well, one, they can move stuff again because we keep telegraphing our plans, but they can't stop the strike. That part is true, but there's a little bit more to it. So we hit some spots in that original run, and one of them was Parchin, which is a military complex where they think they were testing bombs. And CNN had a great piece, I guess last week, showing up at the top where we had dropped bombs. And then also lately they have fixed that back up. So they are back at these facilities trying to get them up and running. That is legitimate. But the problem is these damn mountains. So the first thing that's really important is this is dug way deeper than where we hit Fordo up north. This is, I think, 300 to 450 feet under solid granite bedrock. So this is hard rock, and it's deeper than Fordo, the one that we brag about hitting and destroying. We didn't fully destroy it. We just messed things up there. They just need to dig it out. But this is a different type of target. We don't have the munition to go that deep successfully on its own. So what we would have to use is a GBU-57 massive ordnance penetrator. It's a giant bomb, but it's only designed for 200 feet penetration in earth, normal earth, or concrete. Like we said, this is different. This is 400 feet of solid granite. So you can't use just one. You would have to stack them, meaning dropping one on top of the other, one on top of the other repeatedly, getting successfully deeper in order to break up the facility. But true destruction, how Trump talks about it, like wiped off the map, doesn't exist anymore, that's not really a thing. What you'd have to do is strike single points of failure. So strike those tunnel entrances like we see here and here, cave those in so they cannot access it. And then you'd also need to hit other infrastructure. So the ventilation shafts like we did at Fordo, cooling towers, power lines, access roads, hit all of this over here. So it's a pain in the ass to get the trucks and the equipment here to dig this out. But the point is they can dig it out, and we've already seen them trying and fixing other sites. So that means you would basically have to have aircraft all the time watching over this area, and anytime they made progress, go and hit it again. So that sounds like a forever war. You're not going to be able to just have control of Iranian skies in perpetuity to stop them from making the facilities functional again. You're also incentivizing them to very, very quickly develop the nuclear bomb. So the goal is really entomb the threat, contain the threat, not total destruction, unless they have something really cool, earth destroying that we don't know about. But it's not a one and done thing. And that's why diplomacy is the only real option. You needed the agreement that Obama had where you could monitor the facilities. Otherwise, forever, you're going to have to strike these spots. And they have multiple. So we've hit this. This is Pickaxe Mountain. We've hit up here in Fordo. This is Parchin up here. We showed you that CNN picture of them fixing it. And then they also have another facility in Isfahan. Let's see if I have, yep, right here. So you're going to have to repeatedly do this over and over and over again. Diplomacy is literally the only answer here unless you want to control Iran in perpetuity. Insane. And the one I haven't spoke about, the other option is to send ground troops in, either special forces in some type of raid or standard military to try to seize the uranium. But That's not a great option either. So, of course, Israel tells Trump that, and he's like, we're going to go hit it because we're the best, while they can sit back and hang out, as Smotrich said. And the new buzzword right now is debasification. Really great piece here on Substack from American Nets. Hopefully, I'm saying that right. But they go exactly into this here strategy. So let's talk about that really quick. So here are the U.S. bases we have in countries that have been affiliated. And of course, there are bases in Saudi Arabia, but I did not place them because they have not been hit yet. But we can see there are a lot of action and bases in Kuwait. Some are just purely American, some are co-bases with the Kuwaitis, but these have been getting hit constantly by Iran because we've been hitting Iran from them. Of course, Bahrain has been getting smacked up north and down south. And then Qatar has been hit as well. And then UAE has been much lighter, but there's a base there. This is just a port, not an actual base, but the U.S. Navy has seen there often, and we have one in Oman. But what's been going on in this concept of debasification, of course, this is Iran right here. Iran has been constantly hitting these countries where our bases are closest, mostly Kuwait and Bahrain, a little bit of Qatar, but they do not want the Americans on their doorstep like this. So they've been attacking these areas and getting America to fall back to all of these bases here in Jordan, and then, of course, wherever we house our aircraft and operations in Israel. So backing us off of Iran's front porch. So Americans have this really unique mindset and way we've been propagandized our entire lives, and it took a while to realize this was even occurring. But we have this concept of like, no soldier can die. Like, you hear about one US soldier, you could have killed 1 billion Iranians, but as soon as they kill a US soldier, we like clutch our pearls. It's always presented as shocking and not a natural occurrence of war. And when Americans hear about that, they get fired up, they get upset. And you'll especially see this cognitive dissonance on Fox News right now with the Trump sycophants. They'll ask legit questions like, how could Iran have struck us when Trump said Iran was destroyed? Without ever considering Occam's razor that Trump is lying. So to avoid all of that, a U.S. soldier getting killed, or our military bases getting struck, or a helicopter or a jet getting taken down, we've been moving further back to Jordan and not using these bases as we would like and have the superiority that we want over the air and over the Gulf. We've been having to fall back. This strategically, Iran is pushing us off the spot. So we go to Jordan to assume we would be safer here. And of course, if you've been following the news, that's not true either. They've been hitting these bases in Jordan. They've been killing American soldiers there, and they've been destroying equipment. So Iran can easily hit us in Jordan, but most importantly, we're being debased out of the Gulf right now. And with their missiles successfully getting through and drones, we're losing interceptors by the day. So we're actually going to be less safe. Heard one YouTuber said that Iran is getting lucky strikes. Go look how precise those strikes are. There's no luck about it. You're just having the American veil of invincibility lifted from your eyes. The reality is most people never tried that. And as soon as they did try to do that to American defenses and deplete them, they're getting through. So maybe it was some propaganda that we're somehow untouchable. And the government of Jordan will even lie and say that all were intercepted. We know it's not true. We can see that in the satellite images, the reports from the military that people have died. So a lot of lying going on here. Iran is far more capable, and honestly, they've actually held back a little bit. They could turn this up 7 notches. Now, America might turn it up 10, and they don't want that. But it's not like Iran is going ballistic here with their ballistics. These are pretty simple assaults, and they're working. So what does debasing us do? Well, you can't have your tankers constantly just circling in the Gulf, refueling the fighter jets with ease so they can go and strike things anytime they want, or launching surveillance drones easily right next door. Distance makes logistics harder, period, overall, no matter what industry we're talking here. So now all of our drones for surveillance, our refueling tankers, our actual aircraft that do strikes have to travel a long distance to Iran. And that makes things harder and more expensive for the US. We have an old mindset to war. There's kind of this agreement of like, you wouldn't attack our bases, right? And Iran's not playing that game. So they've definitely moved us off the spot. We've concentrated far more in Jordan and Israel, and that means the war is going to be tougher unless we escalate severely, which could happen. But so far, Iran's strategy has been pretty sound. And hopefully that can come to a realization amongst our military that we should de-escalate this and try to find some diplomatic solution, because you will have to escalate in order to combat Iran's effectiveness right now. And then they could escalate, and now we've spiraled into a lot of trouble, a lot of people dead, a huge migrant crisis again, all of the proxy groups splintering and creating 900 more little ISISes around. We don't want any of that. There's a Pandora's box that does not need to be opened. Let's chill out. Good game, Iran. Let's slow this down a bit. And America's done that a little bit in the past couple days, but I fear that slowdown is actually so they can amass enough forces to strike far bigger and wider. But that's the trendy concept of debasification. So talk to your grandmother about debasification at dinner. She will have no idea, and you will sound like a genius military strategist. Everyone have a good day.